Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let me show you how to organize the files on your Mac. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. Now, how you organize the files on your Mac is really up to you. There are so many different ways to do it. I'm going to show you one way. That's the way that I would advise any good friend to do it. And that's primarily to use the Documents folder to store all of your files and to organize things there in folders. So let's say you're starting with a bunch of files that you've just scattered on your desktop. Maybe you've got no files yet, or maybe you have a bunch of files in other folders elsewhere. Now let's make sure we're in the Finder here. The Finder is the app that we use to organize our files. And we see Finder is the app we're currently using because it's in the menu bar there. If you don't see it, you can always click on the Finder icon here at the bottom left. Then you can go under File to a new Finder window to create a new window. Chances are you'll probably see the Recent list here. Recent is not a location, but a list of files you've recently accessed. We want to go to an actual location. And in this case, we want to go to the Documents folder. So if we use Go, we can go to Documents. And you can see here I've got an empty Documents folder. And there's actually two different places that your Documents folder can be located. One is to have it in your Home folder, and the other is in iCloud Drive. I think most people today would benefit from having it in iCloud Drive. So in System Settings, under Apple ID, and then iCloud, and then iCloud Drive, I've got iCloud Drive turned on, and I've got Desktop and Documents folders turned on as well. That means my Documents folder is part of iCloud Drive, not my local Home folder, and the files in my Documents folder are available across all my Apple devices. As a matter of fact, if I command click on Documents here at the top, I can see it is in fact in iCloud Drive. So now I can organize everything here in my Documents folder. This is what the Documents folder is meant for. Hold all of your stuff. And it's a great practice just to have everything here under the Documents folder. So if you ever need to back up all of your stuff, make a copy of it, archive it, or just you want to find your things, you know to always start in the Documents folder. But we don't want to just put everything here at the top level. It would just be a mess. So we want to create some folders here that will hold things based on what the file is for. For instance, you may want to have a folder here for all of your personal stuff. We're going to go to File and then New Folder, or Shift-Command-N. And I'm going to create a folder here. And right away I'm in rename mode when a new folder is created. So I'm going to type Personal. And this is a folder to hold my personal files. I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to create one, and I'm going to call it Work. So I've got two folders here. This is a good start. I've got one for all my personal files, one for my work files. So now I can look at the files I've got here and start to move them in. So for instance, here's something that might belong in my personal folder. Here's something else that could go personal. But if I look at some of the other files here, I may find that I've got here a work file, maybe another work file, and I can continue to organize. At some point, I may notice that another folder could be useful. So I'm going to create another one here. I'm going to call this one Images. And I'm going to move these images here. I can select one and then command click to select more than one. And now drag them all at once. And I'll put these in here. And now I can keep going and organize these things as I want. And now you can see I've cleaned all this up. I don't have any more clutter on my desktop. And I've got everything in these three folders. Now having everything here in this icon view can make it hard to see all of your stuff. After all, we may have more than just these three folders. We may have dozens of them, and it's going to get cluttered again. So instead of using icon view, go to View and then use either Column View or List View. Column View puts everything in a column. Here I've got the Documents folder level here, and I can select any one of these folders and see everything inside it. I could also go to List View, and then here I've got all the folders, and I can open each one up and close it to see everything that's there. Let's expand this window a bit here and take a look at what we've got. So we've got just three folders, but you're probably going to have a lot more. You may also want to have some subfolders. So for instance, if I look here under Personal, notice I've got a couple here that have to do with taxes or finances. So let's create a new folder here. I'm going to do New Folder and create this one called Finances. I'm going to drag and drop that into the Personal folder. So in other words, this is Personal Finances. And now I can drag and drop these files into here So now I've got further organization. So I can create not only folders at the top level, but folders down another level, and you can keep going. You can create as many folders as makes sense for you. Another way to create folders is to select the file first. So here I've got a receipt for something. And let's say I want to create a folder to hold all my personal receipts. Once I've got this selected, if I go to File, I can see not only can I create a new folder, but I can create a new folder with what's selected. So I'll create that, and you can see I can now name it like that, and that will hold all my receipts. The most important thing that I can teach you here is that you should always be organizing and reorganizing things. Just because you've set it up like this doesn't mean you need to keep it like this. If you notice something isn't working for you, change it. You can change the names of these folders. You can create new folders and move files there. It's easy to create new folders. It's easy to change folders, and you should be doing that to always be updating your organizational structure to fit your needs. This is something that's going to grow with you over time, not something that you're going to set up once and then use the same way forever. It's also going to vary greatly from person to person. One person may have tons of folders at the documents level and very few subfolders. Other people may have just a few folders at the top level and then tons of subfolders in there. Some people may like to have lots of different types of files together in a folder, while others may want to have tons of different folders, each with just a few files in them. It's really up to you, and whatever you decide, it's not permanent. You can always rearrange things. Now, once you've got these folders, the trick is being able to find things. Getting to your Documents folder is usually pretty easy. In the sidebar here, you should see Documents under iCloud. You could even take this and move it up to Favorites. I'll stick it right here at the top so I can easily get to it. So if I'm somewhere else, like I'm looking at Recents here, I can easily click on Documents to go right to my Documents folder. Not only that, when I'm in other apps and I go to Open, I can access the same sidebar here. So I can click here to go to my Documents folder and have basically a little mini finder. It's really easy to get to your Documents folder here. That same is true when you go to save something for the first time. You go to Save, you've got Documents right here under Favorites on the left, so it's easy to get there. But you don't just have to have Documents there. You could have any folder here that you want. So for instance, if you find you're using this Receipts folder a lot, you could drag that to Favorites as well. Now, it's not correct to say that Receipts is now in the sidebar. It's not. This is just a shortcut to get there. Now, another thing you may want to do is set the default folder to something other than Recents. Recents can be handy, and it's fine if you want to use it that way. But if you'd rather have Documents be your default location, you can do that. In Finder, go to Settings, and then under General, set New Finder Window Show and change it to Documents. So now, when you create a new Finder window, it will always start at the Documents folder. So here are a few extra tips. Not only do you create files, but you often download files. And by default, these go into the Downloads folder, which can really get cluttered up with a lot of things. It's best practice not to keep anything in the Downloads folder, but to move things to the appropriate folder in your Documents folder right away. Better yet, when you're downloading something, like I'm going to download this PDF from my site, you can control click on it or two-finger click on a trackpad or right click on a mouse like this. And then you can choose, instead of download linked file, download linked file as. And now you can actually choose a location. I can go to the Documents folder here and I can put it in its proper place. You can even create a new folder at this point. So for instance, it could be useful here to have a new folder in the Documents folder called References and have some files like this in it. So I'll save it there. So there, instead of cluttering up my Downloads folder, I've placed this download exactly where it should go. Now sometimes you don't have the option to actually choose the download link file as. Sometimes it will go to your Downloads folder whether you want it to or not. But that's fine. In that case, just go to your Downloads folder and then take it and immediately drag it to the place you want it to go. The whole idea is to keep all your files organized in your Documents folder and your Downloads folder empty. The same is true with screenshots. If you use Shift-Command-5 to bring up the screenshot controls here, then you can go to Options and choose where to save a screenshot to. By default, it goes to the desktop, which creates clutter. You can have it go to the Documents folder, but you don't want it at the top level of the Documents folder either. So you can instead have it go, say, to Preview, where you get to choose where to save it every time, or choose another location And perhaps there, go to your Documents folder, and you can even create a new folder here called Screenshots if you like. And now new screenshots will go to this folder here. And here's one last tip. If you've got the Documents folder in iCloud Drive, then what happens if you want to create a file that you don't want to be in iCloud Drive? Maybe it's a huge file or a folder full of really large files and you don't want it to take up space in your limited iCloud Drive storage. Well, you could still go to the Home folder, and in your Home folder you've got things like movies, music, pictures, and so on. So it's often handy to have a new folder here called Local Documents. And I like to call it that instead of just Documents so it's never confusing when you see the name of the folder. And then anything you store in Local Documents will be in your Home folder that's only on your Mac. It's not available on iCloud Drive. So there's my advice on how to organize everything on your Mac. Put it all in your Documents folder in iCloud Drive. And keep your desktop and downloads folders clean and empty, and create a Local Documents folder in your Home folder in case you need something stored completely offline. Your needs are going to be different than everybody else's, so you can look at this as a place to start and then modify it from there. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.